join us?
Well, you know, our cousin Jane Weiner in LA is going to be here tonight, and our cousins in Washington are going to be here.
Wow.
So Jonathan will be on screen, and Margaret will be on screen in New Hampshire, and
Great.
you know, all the local cousins, plus the other side of the family. You know, many of the Feldmans also are part of the Temple Shalom community.
Sure.
You know that, but
Yeah.
many of them were there. And as I started to send out invitations, everybody got back to me and said, you know, I had my bar mitzvah at Temple Shalom, or I was married there. It was really quite amazing to me.
Very true.
How important this temple's been.
We were there 20 years ago. Jennifer was married 20 years ago yesterday. And there's a homemade chuppah in copper still somewhere in the temple.
In copper?
Copper tubing. Yeah. And she made a silk canopy for it with Swarovski crystals hanging off of it.
Wow.
It's somewhere. I don't know where. Donated to the archive. Isn't that oh, that's mine.
Josh, what about cousin Joni? Did you hear anything?
I haven't heard back from Joni. I let her know, and I let Bob. I let your brother know, but I haven't heard back from them, so I don't know if they're going to be here tonight or not.
Okay, I'm glad you let them know.
But you know, I'll be talking about Anita and Herb, you know, quite a bit, and even showing some pictures of Anita. And I think we're going to have this all recorded. I don't know, is it going to, if we can get it to YouTube? Is that, Laura? Is that?
We are recording right now.
So we'll be able to. I'll get a copy later, Gene, and I'll be able to send it out to all the family members that weren't able to be with us.
That's great. Wonderful. Yeah, good.
There were some people that asked to see it as well who couldn't show up tonight.
Yeah. Well, it's so nice. I'm seeing a lot of my friends here now, too. Pretty exciting. Hi, Carrie. Hi, David and Deborah. Hi, Lucia.
Josh, was that Jeannie that I heard?
That's Jeannie and her daughter, Serena.
Can I say just a quick hello to them?
Can you see them? They're there.
I don't see them, but I just wanted to acknowledge them. Hi, Jeannie. It's Susan Epstein.
Yes, Susan, I see you. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's lovely. I'm so glad you're with us.
And me too. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Can I say hello to Susan? It's Amelia.
Oh, Amelia. We have wonderful friends joining us. Hi.
How are you?
I'm great.
Hi, everybody.
We should probably mute ourselves, huh? I'll mute myself.
Hi, Michael. I'm going to mute myself.
I don't see you.
Good thing everybody's names are on there with their boxes.
Can you click on the eye? If we click on the arrow, do we get to see more people? Maybe.
Well, I think we'll see.
Yes, maybe.
Josh, it's 7 o'clock, so I think you can get started screen sharing whenever you feel ready.
Well, you know, I think Rabbi Abraze is going to be.
Yeah, we're the ones who are going to start. So let's give it another 2 minutes or so, and let's see if we can get a few more people come on, and then we'll begin the program.
Hi, Kathy.
Is it here? She's here somewhere.
Hi, Rich and Eileen.
Hello, nice to meet you.
I'm only going to say. I'm going to get turned off very quickly, so I'm trying to say. My friends. Hi, David and Deborah, wherever you are.
I'm just scrolling through everybody.
Hi, Jay.
Sorry.
Hi, cousin Nancy.
Can you see everybody?
Hi, David.
David and Sue.
Hi, David Taxon. Wow, I've got a lot of family here tonight. Thank you, everybody. Hi, Lucia.
Okay.
Hi, Rhoda. Hi, Rhoda.
Where do you want to go back to?
back. Wow, look at all these people.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
There?
Hi, Judy. Hi, Judy Schwenk.
Tell me when.
Keep going. Oh, no, go down one.
Hi, Josh.
Who's that?
Right there.
Cousin Barb.
Hi, cousin Barb. How are you?
Hi, sweetheart. Good luck tonight.
So thanks for coming.
Michael, what happened to your face? Very cute.
It's a virus.
Want to be part of this? It's very becoming.
Do you want to be a part of this? Why don't you come be a part of this?
Hi, David and Sydney.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. Great to see you. Hi, Alex. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, Alex. Nice to see you.
Hi, Josh.
It's Peter.
You.
Do you see me?
Oh, hi, Peter. I thought you weren't going to be able to make it.
Yeah, but I postponed it for a little bit.
Wow, good for you. Thank you.
Hi, Josh.
Who's that? Oh, hi, Catherine. How are you? Good to see you because it's dark in there. Hi, cousin David.
Hi, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
You look like you're outside.
I'm out in the yard.
Wow, it looks nice out there.
Hey, Josh, can you hear me? I'm Rob.
Where are you? I'm trying to find you, Rob. Oh, hi,
Well,
Rob. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Cheers.
Great to see you. Oh,
Congratulations.
you got the wine. You brought the wine.
I see about 9 screens and I'm hearing a lot more voices. So I don't know.
I'm seeing 30 people right now. That's
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know. I'm on an iPad. I may have a limit to what I can see.
Yeah.
We would have started already, everybody, but we're just waiting for a few more people to show up.
Hi, Josh. This is Bob.
Yes.
Where are you? Oh, hi, Bob. How are you? Nice to see you.
It says on the bottom there are 62 participants already, 64 now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rabbi Laura Abrasley. I'm one of the rabbis at Temple Shalom. I'm going to ask our moderator to mute all of you, or please mute yourself. And we're going to begin in a few minutes. What a beautiful group of 2 communities kind of coming together. It looks like Josh, many of your family and friends are joining us this evening, as well as I've seen easily 30 plus screens here that are part of the Temple Shalom community. So what a wonderful way to spend a beautiful beginning early summer evening with one another as we learn with one another about this beautiful piece of art that is behind me. I had hoped that I could at least be live in our building with this beautiful mosaic. But when we tested it out yesterday, it turned out the space is a little bit of an echo chamber. So I took a picture and I'm at home with the mosaic, at least here with us spiritually. So for us at Temple Shalom, this evening represents also the dedication of this piece of art that Josh so beautifully helped us create and then designed for us. And we want to begin the evening by dedicating this piece of art because it's very special in our community. And then we are going to spend some time learning with Josh about the piece, how it was created, and how it represents the foundational values of Temple Shalom. So my clergy colleagues are somewhere here. I see them. I see Cantor Shafritz, and I thought I saw Rabbi Barry. I'm assuming that she's here. We are a clergy team of 3 who enjoy working with one another and miss one another deeply, but we are happy to be together in this digital world and this, as it sort of continues. All right, so I would ask our moderator to unmute Rabbi Barry and Cantor Shafritz, and we are going to do a brief ceremony that dedicates this piece and tells you a little bit about the people who helped to make it possible. Before we begin the ceremony, I do want to sort of call out 2 families. One is a sort of put together family and one is a family that understands themselves as a family. The first is the Open Your Eyes committee. I see a handful of people on our screen. This group was there's a committee, is a sort of, they're still a committee. They're a little bit on hiatus right now. Susan Epstein was their chair for many years of bringing beauty into the world and how Judaism intersects with it. And they're members of the advisory committee also here that I've worked with in the past 5 years that I've been at Temple Shalom. And they were key in helping this project sort of come together. The other family that I want to call out in this moment is the Cohen family, who I see there. And we'll talk a little bit more about who they are as we move into the ceremony. But without these two groups of people, both their emotional support and their financial support, this project never really would have come to fruition. So that's important for us to call out. So without further ado, I'm going to sort of bring us into this moment. Less than a year ago, we at Temple Shalom entered our physical space to begin again. The new year and our renovated sacred home called out to us. We gathered, warmly greeted one another, renewing our deep connection and commitment to our beloved community.
We stood together to rededicate our spiritual home, recalling the words from Exodus that remind us to build sacred gathering spaces. Va'asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. Make for me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them.
Tonight, as a community of friends of Temple Shalom and members of Temple Shalom, we gather again, albeit with a radical difference from 10 months ago. Our world has been turned upside down by a crisis we could never have imagined, but still we gather in some ways stronger together in this digital space, blessed with the creative magic of technology. And truly, as we do, we're creating and we're doing a Suli Mikdash, make me a sanctuary, perhaps a sanctuary that's really for the 21st century.
Our gathering tonight dedicates one of the last pieces of art created for our new space, this exquisite community mosaic, designed and created in collaboration with local artist Josh Weiner. Installed just days before we closed the building back in mid-March, it lives in the Temple Street entrance across from the Tree of Life, an anchor of communal strength, waiting to welcome us back when we are able to physically return. The vibrant design and colors echo the symbols and values that have held Temple Shalom for over 6 decades.
This beautiful piece of art represents that which is truly sacred about our synagogue community, and that is the amazing people who make our community, and not just a place, not just a physical place, holy, who welcome each other every week, no matter what our gathering space looks like, be it sitting side by side or in our own individual living rooms or spaces or basements or offices or backyards, as we are doing tonight, a collection of connection and commitment.
The two of our beloved Temple Shalom members of blessed memory, Anita Weiner and Arthur Cohen, would be particularly proud of this remarkable piece of art. Both Anita and Arthur left a lasting impression on so many in our community, each dedicated in their own way to beautiful spaces and things, but equally or perhaps more so, dedicated to welcoming and bringing together beautiful people. We had hoped this evening would be a significant moment to remember them both and honor their contributions to Temple Shalom. Clearly our plans went slightly askew, but both Arthur and Anita would want us to spend time with this magnificent artwork, especially in the company of one another. And so we created tonight's digital opportunity to engage with the art and one another. We are grateful that Josh, the artist who guided our community and created the art, is with us to share his creative process. We will begin in a moment, but before we do so, it is fitting to simply admire this mosaic and remember Anita and Arthur.
And so as we have taken just that moment of quiet, we bring back so many memories. Arthur's kindness and his greeting to everybody that he met. When I arrived at Temple Shalom, his warm welcome and his care of me and my family. And although Rabbi Bracely and I and Cantor Shafritz did not have the opportunity to meet Anita, we've heard so many stories of her gift for teaching and for care of our community. And so tonight, as we celebrate Shavuot, the late spring festival, that sparks the beginning of summer growth and potential, we remember that Jewish tradition teaches that this holiday marks the moment our ancestors stood at Sinai to receive the Torah, the foundational teachings of those texts and words and practices and traditions that have held the Jewish community together for millennia.
These teachings stand the test of time, each generation remaking them in accordance with their experience, honoring the past and building for the future.
And so it is with the generations who gather tonight digitally and will continue to gather in continued creative ways for generations to come, that we mark this moment in the life of our community with the words we communally spoke together way back now on Erev Rosh Hashanah. I believe we're going to share these words.
So the words actually are not going to, we're not going to share them on the screen. I think we're too big of a crowd for this evening, but we, the clergy, are going to try to say them together. For those of you who have been on these Zoom calls, you know that sometimes this is a little bit of a cacophony, but for those in our community who can we'll take you back to that moment. We spoke these words when we stood in front of our new ark in our beautiful rededicated and renovated sanctuary. Just to bring you back into that memory moment. So clergy friends, let's try it together. When we enter this
space today, tomorrow, and always, may goodness guide our hearts. May meaning and consequence occupy our minds. May kindness fall upon our lips. May sacred purpose guide our children. May the law of generosity and graciousness direct our actions. May this place be a holy place, a sanctuary for our highest desires, an eternal light, reminding us of who we hope
to become.
Now, as one community, even though we're all muted, we'll see some mouths moving and maybe some heads bobbing, where we share our gratitude for having reached this moment as we sing these words of our blessing, Shehecheyanu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Thank you to my clergy colleagues and to all of you here, and to the families of Anita and Arthur. Again, we are so grateful for the inspiration that they left for us, the way they lived their lives and taught us. And we hope that for those of you, when you do stand in front of this beautiful piece of art, hopefully very soon in the future and in person, that their generosity, their kindness, their teachings, their appreciation for beauty will come flooding back to you, and you will share it with others. So we thank you for that moment and allowing us to, at least digitally, dedicate this beautiful piece of artwork. So with that, we will move now into our evening of the Artist Talk, which I think many of you are excited to be here for. I know I got a little bit of a preview a few days ago, and it was really, really enjoyable to watch and listen to Josh kind of explain about his work. It's a remarkable opportunity to spend time with an artist who has created a piece of art and then get underneath and inside their head. And he does a beautiful job kind of helping to explain what he was thinking as he listened to us while we were talking about what was important to Temple Shalom. And so I am excited for him to share that with you. The format for tonight's evening is I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction for Josh Weiner, the artist. so that those of the people who aren't family and friends know a little bit more about him. I know that many of you already do. And then Josh is going to speak for, I think, 20 to 25 minutes, give or take, and sort of share. We're going to share a PowerPoint with lots of pictures of the mosaic being created, as well as the mosaic in its actual installation, better than this, what's behind me here. And then after that, we'll take questions. Because there are, as of the last look, 85 screens, 85 households joining us here this evening, probably more people. What we're going to do is that I would ask you to send a question into the chat, and we have a moderator on the back end, and the moderator will curate their questions. And then when we get to the question and answer time, the moderator will send me the questions, and Josh and I will have a little bit of a back and forth on your behalf. Because we're lucky to have a lot of people here tonight, so that's really a lovely thing. So for those of you who don't know, Josh Weiner is an award-winning artist specializing in the design and creation of murals, mosaics, and public art in a wide range of media. He has created more than 100 works of public art, probably more than that, from large exterior pieces to very personalized interior murals and mosaics in homes, schools, synagogues, and everything in between. For those of us who live here in Boston, you may have seen one of his murals around town. One of the two that I admired a lot that never knew, and I was loved that they have been brought into this moment, the S&S restaurant mural in Central Square and the Newbury Street mural are both Josh's creations. So they're new meaning for me. But I think what's been really special for us is that Josh is also an experienced teacher and works with schools and community groups to create art for architectural environments, public spaces, and gardens. And that's how he came into our space. He's really passionate about sharing the experience of collaborative art making. So he came actually looking to us because of his beloved Aunt Anita, who was a member, as you know, of Temple Shalom. So it began almost probably 2 years ago, a wonderful lunch between myself, Josh, and Susan Epstein that developed into this amazing community project that was supported by the Open Your Eyes Committee and the Cohen family. And without their emotional and financial support, this project would never have been possible. And so if Josh's experience and work is not enough for you, and you're going to see it is, you should also know that his education and training is top-notch. He studied painting at Yale as a college student, and then studied architecture at Harvard in his graduate studies, and was an active architect for over 10 years before turning to full-time art and art education. And we are lucky that he is here with us tonight. And so without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Josh. You're on, Josh.
Can everybody hear me, or fine?
Yeah.
Okay, good. It's so nice to see all of you, and thank you all for wanting to be here tonight. I really appreciate the support. I hope you find the presentation interesting. It was very touching for me to feel this virtual sense of reconnection to the temple itself, which is a terrific community. It's a very welcoming community. I had a fantastic experience sharing in the process there, but I also have a really strong family connection on both sides of my family. Both the Weiner side and the Feldman side have been involved with the temple for several generations, starting, of course, with my Aunt Anita and Uncle Herb, who were founding members in 1950 and who saw the construction of the original building in 1956. So again, I'm just thrilled to be able to share this with you, and I thank you for coming. I'm going to start, Laura, a little differently than we said. I'm going to actually show them a part of the video simply because I think it gives a good sense of three-dimensionality, and then we'll do the PowerPoint. And I'll stay within the time that we talked about.
We're good. We got time.
Okay, so here everyone is. Here we are at Temple Shalom in Newton. And Laurie and I have just finished this new mosaic, overlapping generations. The circles are all the different ways that people come together and overlap over time. And here are some of the details. So that gives you a sense of what it's like to be in the physical space in a way that these slides really won't show you. But the slides will help to tell the story of how all of this came to be. Of course, this is the finished mosaic, and I'm going to be talking about it in some detail so that you can understand it. This is what you'd see, though, if you were standing there. So the basic shape, of course, and the composition is about circles and other things, but we'll go further into the detail soon. I also wanted to start by thanking the temple for bringing me into the community. I wanted to thank Executive Director Ellie Goldman for supporting the project, and then all the various support from Rabbi Abrasley and Rabbi Berry, and also, of course, from Susan Epstein of the Open Your Eyes Fund and Debbie Cohen and her family. They all, each of them gave the kind of support that made a project like this go beautifully from start to finish, and really, it wouldn't have happened in the same way without each of them really being very thoughtful and caring and supportive of me and the process. And this is me, the day that we finished it. I was so happy because it was 2 days before everything shut down. I was really quite thrilled to see the final work on the wall. And some of you may not know me, so I just wanted to include a picture of me. Here's an interesting photo that is in, I think it's room 11, is that right? It's somewhere in the temple, and it's a picture by a famous Cambridge photographer named Elsa Dorfman, and the title of the picture is called Women of the Century. And of course, the woman that I know best is my Aunt Anita, who was a founding member, as I said, with my Uncle Herb. And Anita always supported and loved the arts of all kinds, not just visual art, but performing arts. My cousin Jeannie is a terrific composer and pianist, and many of my family have loved art, but Anita was really quite special in that way. So it was so exciting to know that her legacy lives on in the Open Your Eyes program. And that was really my connection. That's why I was the artist that was selected to do this. Of course, the other very important person is Arthur Cohen, who was an architect. Everything I've heard about Arthur's just been such an inspiring thing to learn about, both his love of architecture and art, but also his warm presence, his thoughtfulness, his keen understanding of design, and he made tremendous contributions to the temple over the years. And I'm so grateful to his family for really wanting to get behind this project. This is the architect's drawing to show some renovation that happened, as the rabbi mentioned. The vestibule was expanded to be a better, easier access into the building. You can see the sanctuary stained glass windows on the right, and we'll come back to those in a moment. The mosaic is in the vestibule. The floor plan here, I don't know if you can see my arrow, but you enter the doors, you're in the vestibule, the mosaic is here, then you enter the main building, the sanctuary's here, there's some other larger spaces. So it's a really nice entry piece right into the building. This is the way it looked before we started. This is the wall where the mosaic's on. There will be some other donor plaques here, and there's a tree of life on the opposite side. So the blank architecture in itself is a good palette for the things that were brought to it. It was a great place for me to create something like this. The stained glass inside is truly, from my point of view, a masterwork of stained glass. There are two sides of windows like this. They were created by an artist named Napoleon Seti. They have very strong color. They're semi-abstract, so a lot of the symbolism is abstracted. And every time I went in there, because the light is different with different weather, you see it in a different way. I even took a stained glass class after I started this project because I wanted to understand better what's involved. But this kind of imagery was very inspiring to me, and I tried to draw from it as I started to develop the design. The way it glows and shimmers, and has a very strong geometric aspect to it as well. There are two panels at the front of the sanctuary, right next to the bima, that were important for what I was doing. This one is the one on the right. The word in Hebrew is shalom, which in the way that I used it is welcome. You'll see it again soon in the mural. And on the opposite side, hidden really away on the left side, is Adonai, the word for I guess, God or Yahweh. And we use this also as a bookend. And I'll show you that in the drawings. The way our project started, like many projects I do, is we try to get the community involved right from the get-go. My assistant, Laurie Callis, and I brought in, several hundred different types of mosaic materials, and we asked everybody to come to the temple, make a collage about their memories and feelings about the temple, especially since the temple was being renovated. A lot of people were dealing with, the changes, and this was a great way to help people to process their feelings and also help us start our journey on design. You can see Susan Epstein there right in the middle working on here. So here's Susan again. You'll see her beautiful mosaic in a minute. People spent about an hour on them, and we asked everyone to write a statement also about what they were doing so that we could learn the meaning of these, because a lot of them are, you have to really hear what people have to say. We set them all up on a long table, and people just took their time reading through them. I really like this one. Memories of coming to Friday night services as a little girl, sandwiched between my parents, all the beautiful stained glass windows. So, these windows are very important to people. But I also thought the sweetness of the family sentiment, the generations, and also the sort of lyricism of the way that the artists used these very simple mosaic materials to tell a story. And that's what I, again, was hoping to do in the design of the mosaic. This is Susan Epstein's, and this one's great because it's very abstract. I won't read the whole statement, but what I particularly responded to was the level of abstraction and how that would be important to this particular congregation. And I also really loved getting to know the families a little bit. There were lots of families with young kids making things, and people very warm, and I could tell people really were just enjoying this, which is exactly what we wanted for the kind of launching of our project. This is the final design drawing that I created. I created lots of drawings. I usually do. I'm not the type of artist that immediately arrives at a solution. I usually experiment with different solutions. And one of my close friends, artist David Fichter, teases me because he finds my process to be a bit odd in the sense that I need to try things until I can figure out what's best. But what the design shows, and I'll try to go briefly on this because there are more slides, but I want to give you some insight into the composition and why it's designed this way. It's bookended on the right by the word shalom. The right side is closest to the outside. So shalom is the idea of welcoming you into the building, and it also relates to nature and home. So you can see the nest or the almond blossom from the tree where Jacob slept, and symbols of the Shabbat, the home Shabbat, maybe lighting candles or the challah. And then on the left side, we see the word Adonai. We're in the sacred space now. So we've entered into the sanctuary. The shofar has called the congregation into the temple. The burning bush is there. So we tried to have things kind of, one of the design committee's suggestions to me was to have the nature and things move through these sides. So the burning bush moves through the column. That was a great suggestion. And then the circles. So the circle idea came about as a way of both embracing, encircling, containing, and opening out. And the two overlapping circles relate to the foundations, which is what I call the founder's circle, and the future, the celestial world, the sky, the generations of the future, and how they overlap. They overlap in the center motif, which is obviously a large pomegranate. And we'll get back to the pomegranate in a minute, but the pomegranate is, of course, sprouting its seeds. And we have some text here. The text is important. I'm going to read it in English. The words are, surely God is in this Makom, this place, and I did not know. This is something that Rabbi Allison quoted from Torah at the High Holiday sermon following the reopening and rededication of the temple. And it's the idea that every time we enter into temple, we are brought back to the idea that the temple is our spiritual home and also is a place of beauty. So the renovation and of the building tied in nicely with this idea. Now I'll move forward. This is funny. I was visiting a friend right after we had our first design meeting, and I was really quite nervous, as I usually am, because I know that I have to come up with something that's a really strong design, starting from somewhat not vague ideas, but broad ideas. And I had a dream just as I was waking up that morning, and I made this sketch in my notebook, in my journal. It's a small sketch. It's about 1 inch high and 3 inches long, but I think you can see it actually has all of the elements of the final design. So I was very, very lucky that my subconscious mind was working overtime that night, because it gave me a good solution that I was able to turn into a final design. This is the drawing that I made to do the physical construction of the mosaic. It's a layout drawing where everything's very clearly defined. And that gets drawn onto the actual panels that we build on. This mosaic, we cemented all the pieces down as we went. You can see the mirrors. They look kind of dark now, but of course you know from the video that they're quite bright and shiny. So the mirrors are outlining everything, and then we just work our way through it. The challah is made from Jerusalem stone. I was trying to tie the challah to the idea of the earth, the wheat. You know, so sometimes the choice of materials relates to what the thing is about. We had half a dozen workshops in the studio with lots of different groups of people. It was such a pleasure for me to be able to host everybody in my studio in Waltham and just have them learn about mosaics, cut mosaics, place them. In the middle is my assistant, Laurie Callis. Laurie has helped me on, probably a dozen projects over the years, including her own temple, Temple Beth Elohim in Wellesley, and also Sher Tikva Temple in Wayland, which many of my friends belong to, as well as Jewish schools like the Rashi School and the Epstein Hillel School. And Laurie has really become an expert mosaic artist and a very close friend, and really kept me on track the whole time. Whenever I got lost, Laurie was right there getting me back on track. I couldn't be more grateful to her. You can see Debbie here on the right, and one of her granddaughters working on this. They're working on the pomegranate, placing glass beads down. Each of those seeds represents one of the many laws from Torah. More studio shots. Now we're a little further along. We filled in some of the 7 species. The 7 species are in this ring. And in Jewish thought, when the Jews finally made it to the Promised Land, one of the things they got were 7 species like barley and wheat and grapes and the pomegranate to sustain them in the New World. I don't remember this man's name, but he was so friendly, and he was telling me stories about his life and the temple. That's such a big part of the joy of making the work for me, is just having people share in it and really making some friends the whole way through. And we had another part of the design beyond the design workshop that I showed you already. We made these clay tiles, and we had lots of people come in and create drawings, which we turned into the tiles around the Founder's Arch and the Arch of the Future Generations. So they start out as clay. I used a kiln that my first art teacher, Margaret Honig, gave me. She was my mentor and a very important person in my life. So it was so nice to be able to, and she was very involved with Temple at Sher Tikva too. She had her bat mitzvah at the age of 70. So it was nice to include her in this way. These are some of the drawings. I think many of these were made by the Cohen family and by Debbie's children and grandchildren. These were beautiful drawings that we turned into these tiles. And I was so pleased that they turned out so well. They really add another level of interest to the artwork. We're done in the studio and we're ready to go. It's a big panel. I hired a moving company to help me this time because I've been doing this for so many years. We had to take it from my 3rd floor studio on a lift outside to the temple. To support it, I built a little knee wall, and then we attached it to the wall. And now, of course, again, you'll see the finished work of art. I'm going to talk now about some of the more detailed symbolism. The center is really important, as I said. You know, this shape of the pomegranate in its space really looks like an eye, which was really just a lucky coincidence, but it reinforces the whole connection to the Open Your Eyes theme. And in fact, this work of art is called Open Your Eyes. with the idea not just to reference Anita and the wonderful art program at the temple, but simply to remind us always that we should be keeping our eyes open for the beauty in the world that's around us all the time. We use an interesting mix of materials, and I think this detail shows pretty well. We have ceramic tiles that are made by hand and ceramic letters that are made out of clay. We have a reflective mirror, glass beads, and I brought tile back from Thailand for some community mosaics that I did there several years ago. And you also see the colored grout. So every area has its own grout. The red beads are grouted with a red grout. The blue tile has its blue grout. That's a trick that I've been using for many years that really strengthens the design. Here, I just wanted to show a little more detail of the lettering and the way that it sort of becomes transparent. It's like a column where the outside starts to move inside, which I think is really important. And the same on the Adonai side, where the burning bush it transparently crosses behind the column and into the holy waters. This motif, these diamonds, the diamonds are really a symbol of the fact that in Jewish mysticism, as best I understand it, and rabbis and anyone who knows more, you'll have to forgive me, but there's an idea that the world is created as a whole vessel which becomes shattered, and these shards then move through and settle in our world. And part of our work as people is to take the shards and try to rebuild the world a little at a time. I also wanted to use stained glass because out of tribute to Napoleon Setti's beautiful stained glass, and also because it's such a fascinating material to work with. You can see more of the stained glass in the dove and more of those shards at the top. The stained glass in this area, when you actually get to temple, is very iridescent and quite beautiful. The photo doesn't do it justice, but it's interesting to work with all these different materials and bring them together. The dancers is nice. It's a group of dancers, and it's also can be seen as a Jewish star, which is kind of interesting. The Torah, again, we tried to keep all of our symbolism to be there, but also to be subtle, and let people discover it a little at a time. Just showing the final section, you can see the wheat and referring back to the challah. The way the candle glows is kind of beautiful. The bottom now, I've shown you the arch so you understand the meaning of that. This is, sorry, the top. This is the arch of the future generations and the arch of the founders. And there are a few special tiles in here that reference both my Aunt Anita and also Arthur Cohen. So I'd like to show you a couple of those. Arthur, this was created by one of Arthur's granddaughters, and it was his hat. Or maybe it was his daughter. I'm sorry, I can't remember. You'll have to forgive me. But it was a specific, a very whimsical reference to Arthur. And we have the same for my Aunt Anita. Anita, many of you who knew her at the end of her life, she had terrible arthritis and health issues, but she went swimming every day. So there she is in the swimming pool. That was an idea from one of my cousins. This star was made by another one of her grandchildren with different references like a baseball bat and a musical note. And the rings are to celebrate my Aunt Anita and Uncle Herb's very, very long marriage. We were lucky, Laurie and I, right after we installed the mosaic, there was a mother and her son, and they immediately started to interpret and talk about it. This is something that will happen a lot when people go into the temple. They'll be able to touch the mosaic because it's very tactile, and also be able to start to think about the meaning. And I'm sure people will come up with their own meanings, things I've never thought of because of the how many images there are there. Here's Laurie just looking at it right after we installed it. The finished mosaic. And then I just wanted to let you know, if anybody is interested in learning a little bit more about my work, I have a website that shows projects, the other projects I've done, and it will show you how we make them. So there's all different techniques. This is the one that I did with Laurie over at Temple Beth Elohim in Wellesley. It's a tripartite one, but you can see that a lot of the strategies are the same with ceramic tile and mixed materials. So that is my whole presentation, and I want to thank everybody. I'm going to just go back to that one, and I can leave that on screen if you want. while we're doing the questions and answers, however you like to go from here. But that's it for me.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat to me.
All right. I know you all want to see it in person, and but so far, I think okay, here we go. There's a good one. All right, wonderful. We've got a couple of questions. So someone was asking about how much time elapsed from the first concept meeting to the installation.
So that
right.
I think that was about 3 or 4 months. We had a number of meetings for design where we really talked at length about ideas, and then I brought in various designs which we kept kind of refining and enriching. And that went on for about a month, and then the fabrication itself was about, I think, about 2 months, something like that. It was the winter.
Yeah, I think what I'll pipe in here, what was fascinating to sit on the side of, you know, being in the design team with a small group of congregants was there's just tremendous back and forth. Like, it's really kind of interesting. Josh did a fabulous job of listening, both in the workshops that were in the spring and then again in the conversations we had with the small design group. And we had back and forth about colors and about concepts, and I was very impressed with this kind of beautiful creative process and how receptive Josh was to you know, kind of continuing to, because seeing his original design, it was very complete, but yet there was all this give and take that kind of happened going forward. It was I've never done anything like that before. It was really fun to work with a group and watch it evolve in that way. And I think even moving forward, as people begin to engage with it and create it, I think it continued to evolve, which makes it really wonderful because it lives in our beautiful space. I'm going to look, let's see, there's a question here. Yeah, I think this is a great question from Susan to talk about what you learned from working with our members.
You know, I think the most unusual thing for me simply is that I kept learning about more and more of my family members who have been part of this temple. And all the way through till when I sent out the invitations for this event, I got all these emails back from different family members telling me about the things they'd experienced in the temple. So of course, those temple members are part of your community. So that was my family personal part. But I also, you know, I learned a lot about how much people care about the physical building. That building is a very beautiful temple. It has gone through changes over the years, additions, renovations, but the building itself all temples are important to the community because they're the place where the very important life events happen. But this temple in particular, people really love the beauty of the building. The building itself the architecture is terrific architecture. And so that was meaningful to me. And just hearing people's stories, people would like to just share, and told me about their things that happened to them in the temple over the years. Those are very beautiful and very touching stories.
All right, Josh, I have a question from one of our younger viewers. I don't know if you know this, but I would be impressed if you do. How many tiles did you use?
A lot of kids ask me that question, and we usually, I usually get that when I work with school communities because kids are fascinated by numbers. And one of my best friends is a math teacher, and she has to tutor kids on questions exactly like this. The way we do it is we look at a square foot and we look at the total number of square feet. So in a mosaic like this, I can tell you there's about approximately 500 tiles per square foot. And the size of it is, let's call it 4 by 10. It's 40 square feet. So 40 times 500, if my math is right, is 20,000. So it's sort of like that. It's between 15 and 20,000 tiles.
All right, Olive, that's the answer to your question. So the next time you're in the the synagogue, you can come in and start counting them. So, all right, definitely some more questions are coming in. So
good.
Let's see. This is a great question. After the design and you began to make the mosaic, did you have to make a change that you didn't expect?
The challenge when you go from your design to your fabrication, the fabrication means making the mosaic, is always about the materials, which materials are going to work best for which sections. And there was a lot of back and forth on all of this. That's why having Laurie know my work so well and be so involved really makes a huge difference, because we spend a lot of time talking about those choices. For example, the 7 species weren't initially going to be made out of ceramics, but Laurie encouraged me in that direction because she loves the 3-dimensional aspect of that, and that was a really good choice. So it's really more the detailing, how to think about the different areas and have them come through as best as they can, like the challah being made out of Jerusalem stone, or the water being made out of blue stained glass. Those are the kinds of decisions that, and I often just go into my studio and stare at things for a while and play with materials until something feels correct.
Great. There's a question about the founder circle. We could go back. I know you mentioned Anita and Arthur and their talk. What were some of the other symbols that were used within the founder circle?
Let's see, I can show, in this slide you can see this was actually made from one of the mosaics from the design collage meetings that we had. It shows where the arrow is here. It shows a family having some kind of event under a hoop. It's probably a wedding. Here's a Shabbat table. Noah's Ark is here. This is actually the logo for the building. This is a recreation of that mosaic that one of the people made, where there are two parents surrounding their child inside, and so on. In the other one, oops, sorry, I went the wrong way. In this one, I don't understand all the symbols in this one. The wine glass, the musical note, the pomegranate, the Hamsa, the dove of peace, the Jewish star, but they start going off in their own directions, which is great. I like this one. I can't remember what this one's about, but it has to do with, if I remember right, and forgive me whoever drew it, it's a symbol of Jewish mysticism.
Yeah, Kabbalah.
So, the Kabbalah, yeah, but in a different way. So anyway, they're pretty interesting.
Right. I think for those people, from what I remember in the questions that were asked we specifically didn't ask very specific questions when it came to these kind of pieces. We wanted people to depict what they felt gave them the connection, was a physical representation of their connection to the synagogue. And while they are very concrete symbols, many of them, I think they represent much more than that. So let's see, let me make sure I've gotten all of these. Give me a second. We talked about that one, how long it took to produce and how many pieces. Someone is asking if you're going to produce another piece of art. Maybe talk a little bit about what your current projects are. I know things are a little stalled because of pieces, but I believe you have you've got some things you're working on.
I have some interesting projects coming up. I'm going to be working on an abstract mosaic for a family member, for my brother. They're renovating their house and they want a large abstract mosaic there, which will be fascinating because I don't usually work completely abstract. This one is completely abstract, so that'll be a challenge and something new for me. I'm also I'm making a mosaic for a friend of mine who is a State Department psychiatrist who's lived abroad raising 4 boys over the last 10 years, and he wants me to create a 5-part mosaic that can both come together for he and his wife and their 4 kids as 5 joined pieces, and can also be separated and live in 5 different households as his kids grow up and live in their own home. And he wants me to tell a story about their life living abroad over the last 10 years as a family. So that's a very interesting, complicated project to solve.
That's great. Yeah, I think for those of you who haven't been to when we're allowed to go gather again and haven't been to either Temple Beth Elohim in Wellesley or Shir Tikva in Wayland, there are 2 additional pieces of Josh's work that are there. The one at Beth Elohim is really, it's also a spectacular piece, larger than ours, although I love our piece. And when I was in the building yesterday, it was just great to spend time with it. And it accomplishes the same thing I hoped when I saw the TBE piece, which is I want to touch it, right? I want to interact with it. It really draws you in and makes you feel like you're welcome in that space. Somebody did ask a question about the Jewish tradition of mosaic art in Judaism. I don't know if you know the answer to that question.
Well, it's a good question. I have never been to Israel, and I have to go, and I've been trying for many years to try and come up with a joint project between Boston Jewish institutions and some Israeli institutions where we could all participate together. So I hope that is in our future. But there's a tradition in Israel of mosaics. It actually links back to the Romans, like many of the mosaics. So when you go to Israel, there are many mosaics that they're still finding. There's still excavation sites that are ongoing where they're uncovering mosaics that are 2,000 years old that are at the very, very beginnings of Jewish iconography and relate to the Roman style of making mosaic out of stones. Which are beautiful, and they actually do show some resemblance to this particular mosaic because a lot of them have very strong geometries, which is interesting.
Yeah, you don't get to see all these chats, but you're getting a lot of kudos here for the beautiful things that you have.
Thanks,
beautiful piece of art that you have made, and the gift that you've given to our congregation and to the family of Anita and Arthur in their memory. There was one, so somebody asked if we will invite people to engage with it and leave their thoughts. I think that's a lovely idea. Certainly when the building reopens, it would be wonderful to have some kind of way to collect people's experiences with the art, because I think those who have worked with me on Open Your Eyes, the Open Your Eyes Fund, and art is meant to be enjoyed and appreciated, and this piece of art indeed is representative of that. So that's a great idea. God willing, it will be sooner rather than later that we'll be able to engage with that. I think I covered most of the questions. I'm gonna just give it a few more minutes to see if anyone else has anything.
And Laura, I believe if I understood right that this has been videotaped tonight and will be posted somewhere. So any of you that have missed some of it or want to share it with another family member or friend, Laura, I guess you'll let people know.
Right, we'll certainly put that up. I'll also let you know that one of our professional staff members created a virtual tour on our webpage. I will actually put up the link here in the chat box for people. That you can go and see, and it's similar to the video that Josh showed at the beginning. Really can't type and talk at the same time. You can go look, and there's some of the pictures are there, as well as a video of it in the space. And I think at some point when, I don't know if your artist statement is complete, but we'll do a link also to hit the artist statement. Josh has created an artist statement for the piece, which is called Open Your Eyes, to sort of reminder that's what it's called. It sort of helps to explain some of the symbolism in it and the process, so that when people generations to come experience it, they kind of understood what this community at this moment wanted to create and what it represents, which is really representative of both the past, the values that Temple Shalom has held dear for generations and will continue to hold dear going forward. Yeah, there's a lot of questions about the stuff that's at the bottom center inside the founder circle. So we will try to get some better pictures of that and pull some of those symbols out for people and put them onto our webpage. I think some of them, in these workshops when they were created, Josh was looking for ones that were, interesting and would work within the design. So not all of them do we know everything about the particular pieces, why the design came in the way that it did. That's what I think is kind of great about it. Some of them we know and some of them we don't. Any last words, Josh, about
Well, again, I just, I haven't done anything like this before, frankly. I mean, it's because of this is all new for all of us, this formatting. And, I'm actually kind of really tickled that I was able to share this with my cousins who live so far away. I have cousins like my cousin Jean and Serena who live in Vancouver with me, and my cousin Jane in Los Angeles, and all my other cousins. It's really quite a wondrous thing, this technology. I know we're all struggling with being closed down in many ways, and in certain ways we're being opened up by what's going on. So tonight that's special for me, and I'm very grateful for people wanting to be part of this tonight. So thank you all.
We are very grateful to you for the beautiful piece of art that you helped this community to create, and also for your time tonight to be with us, to share with us your process and make the piece really come alive in a completely new way as we get to experience it with you. I think that's a unique opportunity. That is what Shavuot is about. So this moment of kind of the Torah can be found everywhere. Torah, as I say often, with a capital Tav. But it exists in everything, and in every learning that we're doing, that there's meaning, and Torah is sort of coming forth. So I thank everyone for being here and for joining us, for these two communities coming together. I'm really, really delighted that there were so many of your friends and family there, and I know so many of our Temple Shalom members for whom indeed the building and the people within the building are so special, and for being able to make it come alive tonight. So I wish everyone a Chag Sameach for Shavuot. May you stand on top of the mountain sometime and get the Torah that you need in this moment as we continue going forward. And I am grateful for all of you, and I hope you have a nice, pleasant evening wherever you are.
And love to my family especially too. Thanks family for being there.